evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Motor City Mad Mouth Show. You got it. There's two of us today. My name is Scott Morgan, with the Motor City Mad Mouth. Pleased to be joined by my co-host this evening, Luke and Jeremy Ballrick. Welcome to the big show.
Happy to be here. Let's do this. But before we get going, since I know Blas is in there, let's get this out of the way now.
Sure.
Woof!
The dog check, that a boy. Yeah, you go ahead and do that, then his other boys are going to find a way to learn how to get on. That's okay. I have no problem doing that dog check here. But I tell you what, I don't have a problem either, is showing people that I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. Pretty much, folks, old school media versus new school media. I have 45 years worth of material in there. I plan to write another book soon. You can get this bad boy on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. There's more information on how to get the book. Let's talk about the agenda tonight, Jeremy, and that's this. The Lions are getting ready for a Thanksgiving stretch, but first you're going to go out there and recap the Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars, 52-6. My goodness, that was a thrashing. What I have is the Lions had 645 total yards, the 38-10 in the first down category, let alone the fact that Jared Goff threw for 412 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then after you give me some basic numbers, you're going to give us an Alex Anzalone update. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Well, that 645 yards was the biggest yardage differential since 1979. It actually was a 475 plus differential. Jared Goff went 24 of 29 for 412 with 4 touchdowns. Amon-Ra St. Brown went off for 160 yards. Jameson Williams had 122 yards receiving on only 4 catches. He's actually got the same amount of catches this year as he had last year and 200 yards more with twice as many touchdowns. He's having one heck of a season, as we all predicted he would if he got to work out in the offseason the entire time. So, sorry, think I hit the wrong button. Yeah, it says unknown. So until I see who, but it's Plazo. We got you, and we see you here.
So continue on. But the Lions and the Jags.
Because it's showing there. That was better.
All right, keep rolling, Jeremy.
I'm trying.
Okay, keep rolling. So
the defense, we held them to 170 yards. We forced them into a pick. We were forcing Mac Jones off his spot all night. Right. Couldn't get comfortable, and that's why we did what we did. Zadarius Smith made his pressure known. He had a handful of pressures in a sack, half a sack. Jack Campbell was the one he shared the sack with. Jack Campbell led the team in tackles. Brian Branch was second. Kirby Joseph with the turnovers. And the turnover streak now is 13 straight games for the Lions to have a turnover versus another team. So the defense is really doing their job and stepping into their own lately.
Aaron Glenn's making a great case to get a head coaching job, isn't he?
Yes, he is. And I think he gets one before Ben Johnson because of how Ben Johnson treated Washington this year.
Well, probably. I guess I'd say that's probably true. Pretty hard to go ahead and debate that. But I'll tell you, Ben Johnson, you talk about a genius. I love that story that you wrote. Why don't you give everybody a summary about the last story you wrote about the masterpiece? That was really incredible. Go ahead.
Well, I'll go ahead and start it off with it. On November 17th at 1 p.m., the Jaguars looked outmatched and unprepared to face the Lions' juggernaut of an offense and was completely suffocated by the defense. Ben Johnson called the plays, and Jared Goff led it like a conductor leading a symphony to almost perfection, amassing an air assault of 412 yards, a rushing attack of 196, yielding 7 straight touchdowns, and never had to punt.
There you go. You'll find that on South Florida Tribune. Jeremy writes a lot of stories for us. He usually likes to do his previews, and let alone he likes to do summaries. And I think one of the most interesting story that you have here is the fact that you've got this Thanksgiving Day stretch, right? And now the Lions are poised to go into a point where they're going to have 3 games over the next 7 days. or actually 10 if you include Sunday, and then you have
11
Thursday,
days. Yeah,
11
Sunday, then
days. Right.
Thursday, then Thursday, because it's another
Correct.
Thursday night game.
Yeah,
So
so good.
the short week, does that hamper us a little? Yes and no, because the Bears have to play right away too. So it's not that big of a deal. It's
Right.
not like last year when the Packers had a bye week and got to prepare for us, and we had to play on a short week with a lot of injuries.
Right.
There was a big difference last year in that Thanksgiving game.
Yeah, there were. And the fact that what's interesting too, though, Jeremy, is the Lions play, I believe, from what I understand, the following Thursday. Is that correct?
Yep.
Two Thursday games with a Sunday game sandwiched between them. So be a pretty interesting road. So all right,
Now,
I want an update from you on Alex Anzalone.
Alex Anzalone broke his forearm. He's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. So there's a chance he may make it back for the playoffs. It's doubtful he'll play a single down in the regular season again. We did pick up David Long, who is familiar with Terrell Williams, our D-line coach. He plays defensive end as
Okay.
linebacker. He's had over 11 sacks in his career, 4 interceptions, and he's had some forced fumbles here. So I think it's a good fit. I think he's going to fit right in. He might be the guy that can go opposite Zadarius Smith because lo and behold, we haven't gotten anything from anybody yet. It's been either the defensive tackles or Zadarius Smith now. And you need somebody to counterbalance that to make it a more balanced attack so you get more one-on-ones for those guys.
Well, you know full well that when something goes wrong and you have an injury, Brad Holmes to the rescue, right? They
Right.
size up what they have on Monday, and Brad Holmes goes shopping on Tuesday, and boom, you got one or two more bodies at Allen Park.
And because of the injury to Ifeatu Melifonwu, the guy that hadn't played at all this season, Eric Hallett on the practice squad was cut, and we signed safety Kavion Merriweather, who was a UDFA, to the practice squad. So you'll if everybody we've signed on the practice squad, and Dan Campbell tells them this in the locker room. He says, "You will play this year because we have to sit 7 guys off the active roster every week, and we rotate people up."
Wow, that's quite an incentive. You talk about using a practice squad the way he does it. That is really important to let everybody know. You better play hard in practice. You're here. You're not just going to be a body just to practice against. We can use you. And as I understand, Dan Campbell wasn't using guys with the intent to not injure to get injured. He wants to play them at full tilt, and he'll just take it as things definitely go along. And that says a lot about the fact that of his character, Holmes, as I talked to before, get reinforcements and the morale of this locker room.
Right. And the other thing I wanted to point out, even though we've had these massive, massive blowouts, we've started the backups in the fourth quarter every time.
Right.
Everybody thinks we haven't done it. They're saying, well, they're just blowing people out for 4 quarters. No, go look.
Right.
Beginning of the fourth quarter, the starters come out, and you'll see Hendon Hooker. You'll see Christian Mahogany if he's on the active roster. Coyote Awazika. Who was it? Michael Neese, a guard that had never played center, got to play center for Hendon Hooker last week. So we've seen guys that you normally don't see out there. Sion Vaki, Craig Reynolds. Those are not your household running backs for
Well,
Detroit anymore.
that's true. Well, again, that's a great point. You know, when the Lions have had games where they have been out of control, I've seen situations where they'll go 8, 10 minutes into the fourth quarter, and you're right, they're going to bring on the other ones. But that didn't stop them from issuing the Jacksonville Jaguars the worst beating in
No.
their franchise history, Jeremy. And they
Well,
ended up, and the first one occurred during their expansion year in 1995.
where they beat the tar out of us.
Right, what's it, 44 points at that time, and now it's 46 this
Yeah, it
time
was
around?
49-5. We had a safety and a field goal from Jason Hanson in the game. That's it.
Was it? Was it 40? I don't remember
Yeah,
the score.
49-5. So
Uh,
we've owed them a couple butt whoopings. So, but here, you want to hear the crazy stat I heard today?
what's that?
The Lions, the last 2 years, have outscored the Jacksonville Jaguars 110-12.
Wow, that's domination. That is domination. All right, let's preview Sunday, Jeremy. Lions are going to get an opportunity to face Anthony Richardson, who was benched for a couple of games. I guess when you don't play and you get fatigued, the coach gets a little bit upset, right? And as a result, he learned his lesson and he learned it pretty well. So now you've got an Anthony Richardson. Let me give you the numbers that he had over the weekend: 20 for 30, 272 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, 10 rushes for another 32 yards. I think what the Colts have to do, and I think they're finally figuring it out, you got to ride this kid. You really do. And since he was, I believe that he was the fourth pick selected overall. Is that correct? Or fifth?
Yeah, fourth, fourth.
I
Yeah,
thought he
because
was
he,
fourth. Out of the
yeah,
University of Florida. And he didn't get a lot of time with the Gators. People, this guy has got to go out there and get some playing time. It really, really does. And now I think you're talking about some positive momentum for him. But do you think the Lions could be looking at this as a trap game, or do you think they're taking everything very seriously about what you have in store on Sunday?
we keep hearing this every time we have a team with a losing record that we're facing. Oh, this looks like a
Right.
trap game for the Lions. And what do we do? Um, for lack of better words, we've been doing BTA. And no, that's not best team available. That's beat those arses. They just come out and mollywop people. If you're a mediocre team, you better play harder than a mediocre team because otherwise you're going to get mollywopped.
Yeah. I'll tell you
And
what.
we got Joshua Burstein in here.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing. I got to give Joshua and Blows credit. These guys are persistent individuals who work hard. They want to be a part of this no filter broadcast, and we want to thank them for their persistence in being able to come on here. Hopefully that these two, with the fact that they enjoy watching a lot of our shows across the different platforms that we do go out there, will be able to go out there and spread the word. But good job, Joshua, and good job, Blake. You're doing a remarkable job,
So
and we appreciate you very much. And that's my way of pretty much on it. But yeah, there's no filter. Just incidentally, this is the Motor City Mad Mouth Show. You're on No Filter Sports Network. We're pleased to be on here with it. And again, when you see this book, No Filter will be mentioned in round two when I work on that in January. It's a great platform. Sometimes it takes a little bit of getting used to. We're just so happy that we could go ahead and do it. All right, for Joshua's sake, since he was trying to figure out, give him his dog check. He's entitled to this one. There you go, Joshua. I have to reward you for figuring it out. That's why Jeremy went ahead and do it. Now, I gave you the Richardson numbers. I want you previewing this football game.
well, their offense is ranked 21st in the NFL. Their defense is ranked 27th. When you put that up against what the Lions have, we have the number one scoring offense in the NFL, and we have the best third down defense and the best red zone defense. That's not a good combination for a team that struggled to get into the red zone
Right.
or even get first down. The only thing that worries me is our guys in coverage. Even though they're doing better than they've done before, we give up a lot of yards, and if they let these guys get behind them, uh, Alex Pierce and Michael Pittman, it's going to be a long day. But we got Smash and Grab back there, which is the new nickname for Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. Brian Branch is Smash because of how he tackles. And of course, Grab is your interception leader in the NFL, of Kirby
Right.
Joseph at 7. And I have an interesting stat about him.
Go
In the
ahead.
42 games he's played in the regular season, he's had 15 interceptions. In that time frame of those 42 games, that's the most by any safety in the NFL active.
No kidding. Wow, that's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one thing. Kirby Joseph, he talked about the fact that he picked up the slack when Brian Branch got thrown out of that one football game. He did.
I know. He kept the turnover streak alive. That's all you can say. I mean, what else can you say about this kid?
No, I mean the Lions have a good young nucleus, and the fact that they've locked up a lot of their players, Jared Goff, Penny Sewell, I know have been locked up as well. They're keeping this is a much different culture when you know that front office is on the same page as you and trying to retain these guys. For years they got it all wrong. Now they're starting to get it all right by being able to lock in your core pieces. Penny Sewell may not have been the most sexy pick when he came out because he had a lot of good wide receivers, but let me tell you how many teams would love to have him now.
And you're looking at the best scoring 1-2 punch at running back in the league. Together, they have 15 touchdowns. Rocket. Of
Yeah.
course, Josh found out to send a duty on here.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I mean, these guys are looking at
Oh,
tonight is there are kids in a candy store, so to
I
speak. So
know.
we'll give them their due with that one. But when we look at this football game, this is the Lions' last game against an AFC South opponent, and they've won the other three. They
Right.
whipped the Titans. You know what they did to the Jaguars, and they were able to come away thanks to
And
Jake Bates against the Houston Texans for
that
sure.
was one of the best comeback games we've seen since, well, let's face it. There hasn't been a quarterback that's thrown 5 picks and had his team come back and beat a team since the Baltimore Colts in 1970.
Well, the Lions better watch out for Jonathan Taylor, though. They really better
Uh,
because this guy's a heck of a player.
but at the same time, we played him before and we've held Jonathan Taylor in check. So I'm not as scared of Jonathan Taylor as everybody thinks because we got two of the best run stuffers in the middle of our line. And that's where he feasts upon is being able to run because most of the AFC runs a 3-4 defense, which is different than the 4-man fronts. The 3-4 defense leaves more holes for a running back to run up the middle.
You always feel good. You always fear a good running back, even though the Lions have played pretty well against the run as well. Jonathan Taylor, those Wisconsin running backs are good running backs.
Oh, they are. And don't get me wrong, he's a darn good running back. But the Lions are giving up less than 110 yards per game, and the Colts are giving up over 130 per game. With our running back duos that can get anywhere from 70 to 100 yards apiece in a game, I think that spells doom for the Colts.
Fair enough. All right, so let's jump ahead to Thanksgiving night. I will say Thanksgiving this year is going to fall on November 28th. That's the day my mother died 4 years ago. She died on a
May she
Saturday,
rest in
November.
heaven.
Yeah, may she rest in heaven is right. So November 28th, 2020, my mom went to heaven. Meanwhile, we're going to talk about the Lions and the fact that they have a familiar opponent, the Chicago Bears, who are led by Caleb Williams and a former Lion DeAndre Swift. Bears currently going to today's action at 4-6, and the Lions 9-1. So tell me what you expect out of this football game. You think the Lions are going to finally win one on Thanksgiving?
Yes, I do expect a dogfight out of it, though. But the Bears' defense is really good. It's ranked
Right.
right up there with the Lions in scoring. I think the Lions right now are fourth in scoring defense, and they're like fifth or sixth, something like that. So you're looking at two teams that give up less than 20 points a game. The difference is the Lions put up 30 points a game, so I expect it to be like a 4 to 7 point win for the Lions.
Yeah, you know what? That's amazing how you say that, Jeremy. I expect this to be a much tougher football game. I really do. I don't know how Caleb Williams is going to turn out against this game. We're still new to the offensive coordinator that they elevated when they let the other one go. But again, the Bears are physical. The Lions are physical. Let's not kid ourselves that the Lions have lost Alex Anzalone and they lost Aiden Hutchinson, two big parts of that defense. Now we know full well that Darius Smith is going to have another week. Darius Smith is going to have another week under his belt, learning a little bit more. And the Lions always find reinforcements, but still, without Aiden Hutchinson, I think they're fortunate that they're able to continue to win without him, and they have more depth along the way that Dan Campbell is handling not only the active roster but the practice squad. But I'm with you. I expect this to be a 4 or 5 point game. Give me a rough estimate about the score that you're expecting out of this.
I'm thinking like it's going to be 24-17 Lions.
Yeah, you know what? I'm in that ballpark with you. 24-17 or maybe 27-21. I
At the
think you
highest.
right.
I,
Well, well, yeah, and I'm shooting it high. I don't think you've written that story yet about what your predictions are going to be with
no,
it,
I'll
but
be
you'll have
looking
some
again.
ideas after tonight's show when you
Oh yeah.
rewatch it again.
The one thing I do
27-20.
want to say is Caleb hasn't been turning the ball over. His problem is his completion percentage is god awful. He has less than a 61% completion percentage, but he's also the most sacked quarterback in the league, and he's went
So
against teams that don't blitz a lot. So when you say that those two things combined, that means that the front four are getting to Caleb a lot, and he has a tendency to hold the ball. What I did notice last week, because I did watch part of that game, is the new OC calls a lot of shorter routes with his wide receivers, which allows Caleb to get the ball out faster and not have to play hero ball. But they did go up against the Packers, who have been struggling with the crossing routes in the middle because their linebackers can't cover because they just switched teams.
Right.
So you're talking about a team that just switched teams and going to be going up against a team that's been in their scheme for 2.5 seasons. There's a big difference there.
So, what were your thoughts initially when DeAndre Swift went to Philadelphia and subsequently landed in Chicago? I didn't think it was a big deal because of his injury situation, but I'd like your observation on this.
Well, he stayed healthy at Philly. So where I was concerned is the O line of Chicago in the run game, which hasn't been good. This year, it's been better than it used to be in the run game, but still just as bad, if not worse, in the passing game. So he's having a nice little season, but he still goes down at first contact. He's not the guy that breaks a lot of tackles. So if you're a good tackling team, you can stop DeAndre Swift.
Okay. Okay, let's go on to the second game of the afternoon. The New York Giants currently sit at 2-8, and the Dallas Cowboys are 3-7, and they're sinking fast. Fox has this game. CBS is 4 and the Bears as they did many years ago. So let's talk about the Giants and the Cowboys. I know right now they're going to have Tommy DeVito at quarterback as it stands going into this weekend. But, two divisional opponents, but they're both, they could be headed for coaching changes.
As mad as CD Lamb is that Jerry announced today he's not firing McCarthy, he might sit out this game. And if that happens, you're going to see the Giants win. And you're going to see my co host for my show, Von Doom, blow a gasket because he doesn't want to
Really?
win another game all season. He wants the number one pick. But I have the feeling that the Giants are winning this game. Um, that team looks defeated. They look like they've given up. They're not playing hard. They're not tackling well. They're not covering well. They're not running the ball well. They're not catching the ball well. When you add all of that up, that does not look good. And you got Cooper Rush that looked like he quit before Dak did.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. Micah Parsons does a good job with his podcast. Problem is, he needs to show it on the field. So
But
Cooper Rush,
I think a lot of it has to do with no one else is doing their job on the defense. So he can't
right?
like he normally does. Mozzie Smith does not look like he's worth a first round pick at D tackle. He's been lackadaisical, not taking on double teams, which doesn't give him that one on one look because Demarcus Lawrence is out of the lineup still. As long as that if Demarcus Lawrence is out of that lineup, Micah Parsons will suffer. While Micah Parsons is suffering, the secondary suffers. It's a cascade effect. We know this. When the front seven gets pressure, your secondary
Right.
plays better. We've been manufacturing pressures, which is why our secondary has improved greatly. Because if you look at it, the blitz rate says everything about what's going on with this team. Our blitz rate prior to Aiden Hutchinson going down was 14.6%. We're currently sitting at 43.9, which means we've been blitzing at over a 50% rate since Aiden Hutchinson went down to get to that point.
So let me ask you this: do you think we're going to see Trey Lance at the finish out the year the way things are going with Cooper Rush? I think the Dallas Cowboys should use him. What do you got to lose? You need to see what this kid has. He's more mobile.
He's more mobile, but he has God, I'm trying to explain it where I'm not being rude, but I don't know how. Uh, he's a misguided missile as a quarterback. He can throw
Right.
the ball a country mile, but you don't know where it's landing. He can be looking at the guy to the right, and it might hit the fan on the left. So that's the only problem with Trey Lance. And he throws the ball so hard. That's why Christian Watson had a high drop rate. So there's something else to think about because Jordan Love has a nice deep ball, but it's not thrown hard, which is why Christian Watson is having more success with him than he did with Aaron Rodgers.
But think about this: Anthony Richardson didn't have a lot of experience coming out of college with Florida. Trey Lance didn't either. Or wasn't he with the North Dakota State Bisons, I believe?
Yeah, but he started 3 out of the 4 years. The only year he didn't start was because of COVID.
Yeah, but he didn't have a lot of games played, did he? Trey,
64 games,
I thought Trey Lance only.
64 college games because he was a JUCO transfer into Division Two.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for clarifying. I wasn't sure. Well, but you're having some of these guys that haven't played much to begin with, and now they're expected to take on a big role, being a lottery pick. All right, final game of the night. This will be pretty interesting. The Miami Dolphins, who currently stand 4 up, 6 down, and the Green Bay Packers, who got a win, was it by just a point against the Bears, 20-19, 7-3.
Yeah,
Tua Tagovailoa gets to go to Lambeau, and it's going to be cold, people. They're going to need the hand warmers out there. against Jordan Love at Lambeau Field. What are your takes on this one?
The Green Bay Packers should win this. It's a cold weather game, and Tua's done horrible in cold weather games.
Right.
But at the same time, Mike, uh, yeah, Mike McDaniel's right. That's his name.
Mike McDaniel, yeah.
Yeah, he's fighting for his NFL career right now. I think the Dolphins have to make the playoffs, or he may be let go. It's that critical for them. So all bets are off at that point. It's a heated field, so it's not the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field anymore.
Right.
So you don't have that hard frost filled ground that was killing people before. So I expect as long as they're healthy, Raheem Mostert and Devin Achane's going to run all over them because they've struggled with the run game.
Well, the Miami Dolphins, let alone they let a lot of key defensive players go. You just can't expect to let good players go and expect your defense to pick it up. In fact, Vic Fangio ended up going out to Philadelphia, right? And as a result, who do they have better than he is? I mean, he saw that organization was very dysfunctional. He got out of there. So again, it's too bad that the coaching turnover is so high because teams in the front offices are letting good players go. They are,
No,
and
they are.
that's what
It
happens.
happens all the time. There's good players and good coaches that have to turn over due to necessity some of the times, and it's not because they were bad where they were at. Some of them are going home. Like
Yeah,
Deuce Staley. He didn't want to leave Detroit. He went to Carolina because his mother was sick, so he could be
right.
near her. So, there's lots of things that are different here
Yeah,
in the
Deuce.
NFL these days.
Wonder if Deuce, if he had to rethink that decision, whether he would have reconsidered it. Of course, we can all look back and say life and where does that really get us? It doesn't matter. But so we know everybody we're looking for the Lions and the Bears game, but of the Dolphins and the Packers and the Giants and the Cowboys, which game are you looking for between those two?
I want to watch the dumpster fire of the Giants and Cowboys. I'm
Oh,
sorry. I
really?
think it's going to be hilarious. It'll be good napping time.
Well, hey, that's what it's
It's either
all.
it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be really low scoring, or it's going to be a super high scoring affair. And if it's a super high scoring affair, I feel sorry for Dallas because
Well,
they've lost all 6 of their last home games by 20 plus points.
yeah, I was waiting for you to come up with that stat. I believe they're winless at home. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're 0-5 this year, but the last home game they lost before this was the playoff game to the Packers.
All right. Well, and here you go. So, and the Packers get the Miami Dolphins on Thursday night football Thanksgiving. I'm looking forward to that game. I really am. I mean, my wife and I, we can watch the Lions game early. I don't know what our Thanksgiving plans are. We never know, depending on if we get together with a family member or two. Otherwise, we do what we got to do. But now you got a little sandwich here. You got the Lions early, you got the Dolphins later, and the Giants and the Cowboys. We'll figure out what we want to do in between. And I'd like to see what, her and I always joke around. Oh, you don't like the Packers. She's way out of line with that. And I'll tell you why I say that because I have a great history with the Green Bay Packers. One of my best friends used to be their PR guy and a historian named Lee Remmel. Let me tell you, the Packers treated me great when I was up in Lambeau. And I saw Lee when I was at Super Bowl 33, gave me some pointers how to cover the game, and he was just great. He was like a great friend. I wish we would have had camera phones back then, Jeremy. I swear, I wish I did. Because Lee
Oh,
Remmel, but I'll tell you what, he's in that book called Lessons from the Microphone, people. I wrote it, Old School Media versus New School Media. And you can go ahead and get that at Amazon Kindle as well as Barnes and Noble. Jeremy Ballrick is in it as well, right, Jeremy?
yes, sir.
He actually, we had a show one time going on called The Professor and the Pupil, and Jeremy and I did it for a while. We might bring it back at some point or another, but he is my pupil. He's come a long way. He's in the book as well, and we could certainly see the progress in his writing because now he obviously knows the biggest thing that you have to learn in life is to go out there and make sure you have enough facts to back up your opinion. And that's exactly what I hope that has rubbed off on you as you continue to establish yourself as a journalists. We want to thank Joshua Burstein as well as Blake for coming on here in the chat room. These guys are persistent. They're intelligent human beings. And the fact that they're able to learn how to do this, we're certainly looking to grow it a lot more in the coming weeks. But seeing these two guys go out there and get in is a positive direction, and they'll be able to explain it to other people as well. But, this is the Motor City Mad Mouse Show. George Eichhorn is off tonight. No problem. No drop off. Just Jeremy and I talking Lions football. So tell me, what are you going to be doing on Thanksgiving other than watching the Lions game?
Not much. My parents are out of town, so I'm going to enjoy the day all to myself with just the TV, probably some popcorn, maybe some refreshments,
Okay.
Mountain
And
Dew, coffee, and then some better libations for after 5 o'clock.
and my Thanksgiving weekend starts this weekend as Candy and I will be working the Miami against Wake Forest. That should be a pretty good game. The Canes obviously trying to get into the national championship playoff picture. They're in it as it stands right now, but they need a win, and then they'll close out the season against Syracuse out in upstate New York. So, any closing thoughts here, Jeremy? Good show. Obviously, we tried to cover a lot of ground, recap one game against Jacksonville, and the fact that we're previewing the Indianapolis game. Jared Goff, I expect him to have a very manageable, solid game. I think the 5 interception game was really blown out of proportion because face the reality. One, threw a Hail Mary. Two, he had a couple tip balls. He had two real interceptions. And three,
Every quarterback has that outlier game.
right.
What I can tell you about Jared Goff, he's the first quarterback in NFL history to have 5 games averaging over 80% completion percentage and a 140 plus uh, passer rating. That's the first time that's happened in NFL history.
What a difference a coach makes. Okay, Sean McVay and Goff
That,
didn't end up on good term, and now he comes to Dan Campbell, gets a fresh start. And then you put Ben Johnson as your offensive coordinator. You got a guy who's obviously breaking every record, winning playoff games, something that hadn't been done since 1991 when they beat the Dallas Cowboys. So Jared Goff, to me, has settled in very nicely in the Metro Detroit area. So, but meanwhile, that does conclude this edition of the Motor City Mad Mouse Show. Once again, lessons from the microphone, tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. If you want to know what it's basically about, all you have to know, old school media versus new school media. I bring up a lot of national, local people, and you don't always have to learn from people that you met directly. You can learn from individuals for whom you've observed through television or whatnot. So glad to have Jeremy on this show.
Old school versus new school.
What's that?
I said old school versus new school.
Yeah, well, that's a good point though. It really is. You're
Uh, I,
you're a rookie. Your first major assignment with us was the NFL draft in Detroit, and my goal is to get you some experience covering some game action next year. When we'll work on that over the
mhm.
next several months to get you to do that. So, but that's what you have, old school versus new school with what you are, and again, I encourage students to buy it or little people that just want to gain an understanding of what the media is all about. The
Right.
media is depicted as being the enemy, and in a lot of cases with fake news and they're wanting to get it out first in clicks, I can understand that
Oh
perception,
yeah.
but there's a lot of good things about it as well. Again, the main thing we have to understand in life, you have to be objective as you can, and that's what we strive to do. So there will be no show
Next.
next week, okay, because of Thanksgiving, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. So, on behalf of Smoke and Jeremy Ballrick, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Motor City Madmouth Show. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Good night, everybody.